The rotator cuff is a group of four muscles that work together to pull the head of the humerus against the glenoid cavity, which is in the scapula. So in this diagram, you can see that the thing highlighted in blue is the head of the humerus, and the structure highlighted in pink is the glenoid. So the rotator cuff essentially pulls the head of the humerus towards the glenoid cavity. So the four muscles that are in the rotator cuff are the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. So when these muscles individually contract, the muscles will rotate the head of the humerus medially, laterally, or superiorly. So when talking about the directions that the head of the humerus can rotate, the midline of the body in anatomical position would be right here. And if the head of the humerus were to rotate medially, that means it would be inside or towards the midline. And if it were to rotate laterally, that means it'd be away from the midline. And then lastly, if it were to rotate superiorly, that means it'd be going up this way. So when talking about the ways that the head of the humerus can rotate, it's important to note that the striations of the muscles in the rotator cuff is what allows this to happen. So when you look at the muscles in the rotator cuff, the striations are these little stripes. So the directions of those striations determine how those muscles contract. So in this case, all the muscles in the rotator cuff are or have horizontal striations. So that means that they'll contract in a horizontal direction, and that's what allows the head of the humerus to be able to rotate medially, laterally, or superiorly. So to break down each muscle in the rotator cuff, you can look at it in this diagram at either a posterior or anterior view. So the first muscle, or the most superior, is supraspinatus. So the supraspinatus is this muscle right here. And that's what it looks like in the posterior view. And then in the anterior view, it would be this one. So the supraspinatus is a cylindrical muscle, and it's attached to the supraspinous fossa of the scapula, and that's its medial attachment point. And the greater tubercle of the humerus is the second attachment point, which is also its lateral attachment point. So this is the greater tubercle, and it would be attached right here. So the next muscle after the supraspinatus is the infraspinatus. So the infraspinatus is this muscle right here. So the infraspinatus is a muscle that has a triangular shape, and it's attached to the infraspinous fossa of the scapula, just right here, and that's its medial attachment point. And its lateral attachment point is the greater tubercle of the humerus. So after the infraspinatus is the subscapularis. So the subscapularis is this muscle right here. So the subscapularis has a flat triangular shape, and its medial attachment point for this muscle is the subscapular fossa, just right here. And its lateral attachment point would be the lesser tubercle of the humerus, which is right here. So after that is the most inferior muscle, which is the teres minor. So the teres minor is this muscle. So this is what it would look like in the anterior view, and this is what it would look like in the posterior view. So the attachment points for the teres minor are the lateral border of the scapula. which would be behind the infraspinatus, and the and that's its medial attachment point, and then its lateral attachment point would be the greater tubercle of the humerus, which is right here. So it's also important to note that the teres minor is a small and flat triangular shape, and that's also similar to the subscapularis. So in all, I think the thing that makes me understand the how the rotator cuff or any other muscle works is looking at these diagrams because it's easier to visualize. And the sources that I used for this are over here. So the diagrams are here, and then the information I got were just from the Canvas page.